You won't believe what happened to me in the elevator with my neighbor's son. I'll tell you everything step by step. But just thinking about it still makes my heart race like I'm 20 again. Are you ready? Then don't go away, because now it's really about to heat up. You won't believe what happened to me that evening. And even now, when I think back to it, I have to smile. Even though my heart was pounding back then like it hadn't in years. The son of my neighbor, whose growing up I had watched from afar, stood next to me in the elevator. And something happened that I never could have predicted. But before I tell you everything to the end, tell me honestly, has something like this ever happened to you? That an ordinary evening suddenly turned your whole life upside down? Write it to me right now in the comments. From wherever you're watching and whether you've experienced something similar. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave a like. So we never lose sight of each other again. Because I'm sharing this with you like I would with a real friend. Let's get back to that evening. I am 52. I live in a completely ordinary apartment building on the outskirts of town, not glamorous, but familiar, with the gentle hum of the lights and the smell that I recognized to floors before my own door. You'd think after almost 12 years here nothing could surprise me anymore. But life is sometimes good to us women. My neighbor David lives 2 houses away. A nice man around my age, a widower for a few years. We just greet each other, nod in the hallway. But his son, Ben, 28, used to always visit during semester breaks. Tall, shy, with his backpack over one shoulder. Over the years, I've seen him change. His shoulders broadened. The youthful uncertainty turned into a quiet confidence. But for me, he was still just the neighbor's son, someone I hardly thought about. Until that night. I was just coming back from my evening walk. It's quiet in the stairwell, only the caretaker is tapping on his phone. The elevator doors opened with their usual squeak. I stepped in, pressed my floor. And just as the doors were almost closed, someone pulled them open again with a hand. He stepped in. Ben with a slight smile that immediately brought warmth. He smelled faintly of cedarwood and freshness. Probably his laundry detergent. His presence immediately filled the entire small space of the elevator. The quiet hum of the motor suddenly seemed louder than usual. "Good evening," he said, and pressed my floor button himself. I was surprised by my own quiet voice. "Hello, Ben." My throat felt tight, as if I hadn't spoken for days. In close quarters, you perceive every little thing more intensely. His shoulders so close, the warmth of his body, the light from the lamp cast shadows on his face. Familiar features, yet completely new. We rode in silence, but inside me the silence was practically screaming. I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, fumbled with my bag. I wondered if he noticed the faint scent of my lavender lotion. And then he asked calmly, with curiosity in his voice, "Do you go for walks in the evening too?" I nodded, smiled. He laughed softly, said he runs sometimes, but he prefers just walking. He can think better that way. That simple sentence opened up like a window. We started talking about the area, about the new cough on the corner. About his father's stubbornness, always having to fix everything himself. He listened attentively, looked directly at me, with a warm gaze. And suddenly the elevator jolted slightly and stopped between floors. I was startled, grabbed the handrail. At that moment, his hand accidentally touched mine. An electric shock shot through my entire body. I laughed nervously. He said calmly, "If we get stuck, at least you'll have company." That simple, almost casual sentence struck me right in the heart. I couldn't find an answer right away. Blood rushed to my cheeks. I suddenly became painfully aware of how many years had passed, how many little lines had formed. But in his gaze, I didn't feel invisible. A noise. The elevator started moving again. The doors opened on my floor, but neither of us moved. We just stood there, as if time had stood still. Then I stepped out after all. He came with me down the hallway. Those few steps together meant more than any words. The silence was almost intimate. His nearness felt protective, safe. In front of my door, he stopped, smiled shyly. "Good night." "Good night, Ben." He walked on towards his father's door. I closed my door, leaned my back against it. My heart was pounding so hard the neighbors must have heard it. I poured myself a glass of water, sat down at the table, and realized that something inside me had opened. A door I had kept closed for a long time stood slightly ajar. And even though I didn't know where it would lead, one thing I knew for sure. The son of my neighbor was no longer something ordinary for me. The next morning I woke up and thought first about that elevator ride. Every step, every glance, how Ian hesitated on my floor. Coffee, feed the cat, get the mail. Everything was coloured by that memory. I told myself, he's 28, he's the neighbour's son. This is real life, not a TV show. And yet in the morning sun, as I looked out at the parking lot, I couldn't dispel the warmth he had left in me. It was more than just a pleasant feeling. He had looked at me as if I were visible again, alive. Then we met again, almost by chance in the laundry room. He was sitting there, scrolling on his phone, me with my laundry basket. Conversations about little things, his work, my plants, the noisy neighbours. And underneath it all, that tension, that melody that threatened to break out at any moment. He leaned forward to show me something on his phone. His fingers touched mine. Again that electricity. I didn't pull back. Let my hand rest under his. The silence was dense, but not oppressive. We both felt that something was happening, and it was no longer ignoble. He stood up, said he had to go, but his hand lingered on mine for another second. I whispered, yes, and thought to myself how much I would have liked to say, stay a little longer. He answered softly, almost in a whisper, I like being here. And left. Left the air vibrating. I couldn't sleep that night. Kept thinking about it. The warmth of his hand, his words, his look that said, you're still alive, you're still a woman. The weeks passed in a rhythm of chance encounters. Slight smiles in the stairwell, brief conversations, sparks that flared brighter and brighter. And then there was that rain. I was standing under the awning at the building entrance. He came out, put up his umbrella, came closer. Our shoulders touched, our hands found each other as if by themselves, fingers intertwined. I felt how important this was, how necessary. His gaze was warm, calm, fearless. And I understood this wasn't something fleeting. It was the beginning of something real, delicate, and so necessary for both of us. The rain drummed on the umbrella and the world around us turned silvery.